Hello, my name is Kirsty. Welcome to Kirsty Knits and Sews. This is my podcast where I share all about the things that I have been making. So glad that you are here today. It is a delight to be back with you and on schedule. This is my last week of the kids being at school, and next week, well actually tomorrow, summer begins. So I'm going to keep trying to record every fortnight, but please bear with me if that doesn't work out because it will be much noisier here at home with the kids here too. All right, I have some exciting things to share with you today. I have knitting, I have a tiny bit of crochet, I have scrappy projects, I have not scrappy projects, I have new cast-ons, I have finished projects that some that you haven't seen finished at all and some that you have seen finished but are now blocked and seamed. And I have a new make along to announce. All very, very exciting. I will start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Salty Air tee, which is a pattern by Samantha Guerin. And I made this tee as part of the tea knit along that I'm currently hosting. That finishes on June 30th. Yeah, 30 days in June, which is in 5 days time from when I'm recording this. Hopefully I'll get this posted in the next couple of days. But if you're watching this and it is still in June and you want to post something in our Ravelry threads, they'll be linked below. We have a chatter thread where you can talk about the things that you've been doing or planning. And we've got a finished object thread. So if you've finished something, you can post photos in there. And I am going to draw prizes for this on July 1st. I'm not going to record on July 1st. I will announce them in the regular episode in a fortnight from now. So what will that be, like July 8th or something? But I will draw the prizes on July 1st. So if you have something that you want to share over there, be eligible for prizes, go post it there. It's been really lovely to see people jumping on board and knitting tees. Not everyone's finished something, which is absolutely totally okay. I had all these plans to do more knitting this month on tees and I've only got a tiny bit done, which I do have to show you today. But yeah, it's a participatory make along. If you are making something, whips were allowed, pick it up, join in, work on a tee, chat along with us. It's been really, really great to see what people have been making. So this one I did make for that. I used Jana as the Silky Merino as the yarn. And I've got to say, it's a little bit toasty today. We are, okay, my goodness, we're only at 23 degrees Celsius, not very high. But up the top here does retain the heat a lot more, and we don't have air conditioning in our house. So I'm sitting upstairs to record this because this is where my craft corner is, and it is pretty toasty. So we'll see. But I did want to wear my tee because this is the last week that I'm going to be recording that the tea knit along is going on. And I think the colorway of this was Mina Verde or something, Misa Verde, not English words. So I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it is, yeah, green. And I love it. And I think last time I checked, they didn't have this color in this yarn on their website. They do have a beautiful range of greens, but if you're interested, go check Done. I will, as always, link all the shops that I talk about down below, and also all of my project pages for what I've been making. If it's knitting or crochet, we'll have a Ravelry project page linked down below, which will also have patterns linked there. All right, so the tea is still going for another 5 days from recording this. It is June 25th, just before 10 a.m. And I'm recording here from Rzeszów in Poland, where I live with my husband and kids, just as usual. All right, so what else? Oh, I am going to do a little teaser. We are going to do another make along because I've had so much fun with the tea one, and I am 100% into gift knitting thinking. It is only June, but a lot of you might already know this, some of you may not. I live a long way from most of my family. So I live here with my husband and my 2 kids, but the rest of our family pretty much live in Australia. So I have a lot of things that I want to make for my family for Christmas, And if I'm going to send them to my family, they need to be sent by November at the latest. I tend to try, there are some birthdays at the end of the year, so I try and do a parcel that arrives in like September, October to cover all of the end of year gifts, all the Christmas gifts, and all of the kind of January, March gifts. And that's a lot of knitting. So I floated this idea last episode and I had a few people say, yes, let's do it. My mind's in Christmas, whether they just received a Christmas in July advent or set or something. And I am going to make this again pretty relaxed, you know, do what you will with it. But my kind of guidelines are, is it a gift for Christmas? Is the thing Christmas themed but for yourself, like you want to make yourself a Christmas jumper? Or one of my things I want to make is an advent, mitten advent. Ange from Jana Yarns did this, maybe finished last year. Absolutely stunning. So it's like a garland of mittens as an advent. That's on my list. Probably won't get to it with this make along, but it would be eligible if I did. So a gift for Christmas, something that is Christmas themed, or I am going to widen this because if you're like me and you have lots of things that you're knitting for gifts that may end up being birthday just before Christmas or just after Christmas or whatever, then that counts too. So if you're making gifts for people, then that counts, whether it's technically for Christmas or not. So gifts, specifically Christmas gifts, but any gifts are okay, or Christmas themed. If you have anything like that, or, you know, even if you want to have an advent that you want to use up, I hate saying use up because we love our yarn. We enjoy using our yarn. If you want to use an advent, then that can absolutely count as well. So Christmas, gift, advent, jump on in if any of that is ringing your bell. Yeah, getting you excited. So I am going to record a separate podcast episode kind of introducing this a bit more. I did sit down and figure out how many things I'm wanting to make for that Christmas period of sending parcels to Australia. And my goodness, I don't think it's possible. It's definitely not possible in the 2 months that the gift along is going to run for, but that's all right. So I'm going to record a different episode talking about all of that. I'm not going to go into that anymore now, except to say that it will run from 1st of July to the 31st of August. So it will be a 2-month knit along, gift along again. I find that's a good time to get excited, make progress, get stuff done, but not so long that I'm like, why am I still doing this? And for me, I tend to change projects every month. But I think 2 months, obviously I'm hoping to hit quite a few projects in that. That should be fun. So that is coming up. Get excited. I will probably record that today or tomorrow while the kids are still gone. And then I will schedule that to post on Monday. Is it Monday? On the 1st. So that you can watch that, or maybe you can comment here and let me know. Would you rather I post it on the 30th or on the 1st? Like, would you rather have a day lead in, or is this enough of a lead in and on the 1st you can watch the video while you cast on all your things? I should also say whips are allowed because, come on, if you're making something, you don't have to start on July. You could have been working on it all year for a Christmas present and include that. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about that now, but keep an eye out for that video. I am super excited, as you can probably tell. I love Christmas. I love all things Christmas, and I love giving people things. I have a lot of people in my life who are knitworthy, who love things, and even after I made my list last night and I got into bed and I decided to just open a magazine on my phone, and I saw something in that magazine and I was like, oh, that person who I don't have a gift for, I could make that for them. And I was like, Kirsty, you already have way too many things. There is no way. But this thing that I'm thinking of is different enough from everything else that I would just, gotta be careful I say this, I find it joyful to make things. But when I'm making a lot of similar things, sometimes I'm like, oh, another one of these. where this one is different enough that I'm like, that would just be pure joy to sit down and do that and put that together. And like, I would zone it. I would be so in the zone that I wouldn't even notice how much time I was putting into it, kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see. But to find out more about that, watch the next episode, Introduction to Christmas in July, gift along. Christmas in July-ish gift along, because it will go into August. All right, moving on. So I do have things to share with you today. I'm pretty excited, really, about all of them. And I just realized I didn't grab sock loppers. Luckily, I'm recording in my craft corner today, so I have them right here. I have a mannequin. Sorry, side point, but I have a mannequin. I've wanted a mannequin so I could design clothes for myself for a while, like sewing clothes. And they've always been expensive and not something that I either have room for or budget for. But a friend of mine who is a very similar size to me is getting married and has asked me to help her make her wedding dress. And we got together once to start, and I was like, I would feel so much more comfortable doing this if I had a mannequin. And so we chatted about it and I bought a mannequin. So I bought it to help with a wedding dress, but I'm very excited for all the things that I can make for me as well. Just it sitting back there, I thought I would mention it because I'm excited while I put my socks on the sock blockers. Oh, and I cut my hair. Just in other news, I cut my hair. The other day I was cutting my kids' hair and I decided to chop mine as well. So, it's not, I didn't take actually that much off, but my hair's curly. So when I chop it, it springs up a lot, like shoulder length, right? Yeah. And it just boings back up. All right, so the socks that I finished are just some basic stripy socks. These are Gazelle Hot Socks colour, and the colourway, which I'm pretty sure I have in here, this is my knitting journal. The colourway is, I'm looking for it in there. I have it here. It is colour number 401, Hot Socks colour. And this is a 50 gram ball. I did 2 socks and I have this much left over. Total weight was 42 grams. So they're not very big. I could have knit the entire thing in the yarn and had enough, but I wasn't sure. And so I grabbed a scrap. This one is Delicious, maybe, from Arizona. I got it in a swap from Takesha. Thanks, Takesha. Still giving lots and lots of fun. So I just grabbed that to put on it. Now, these socks I did different to normal. You may have noticed I have not a heel flap and gusset. I did these afterthought everything, which meant that I cast on at one end. Yeah, I cast on at this end. I can tell because there was a tiny blip of purple in the cast on. And then I knit a tube like that, and I kept knitting a tube, and then I did ribbing on the other end and cast off, which has a blip of orange because I didn't quite get it right, my estimate. And then I cut the tube in half and I added 2 toes, and then I chose where to put my heel and I added the heel. Now, Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady has a tutorial for this. They're called Afterthought Everything Socks, which will be linked below if you want to check out how to do it. I followed the way that she did it in terms of, in fact, I didn't even rewatch it this time because I've watched it previously, so I just did what I remembered. But yeah, I picked up, I marked where I wanted to cut, I picked up stitches on either side, I cut and unknit that row so that they were separate, and then I just did 2 normal heels from her vanilla sock patterns. The heels, however, she does have an Afterthought heel tutorial, which I presume is the same heel as in her Afterthought Everything tutorial. And so I did that with a difference. I wanted it to be a deeper heel, And so I think she has you knit 1 or 2 rounds before you start your decreases. I knit 3. And then my initial decrease rounds were still, I did them every 3rd round, and then every 2nd, and then every round, and then finally kitchened the heel. It does give me a deeper foot, but you can see here, even it's stretching. And after finishing them and trying them on, I should have put my heel 1 more stripe up. I should have done it between the 2 dark pinks instead of after the orange on this one, and between the 2 dark pinks instead of after the purple on this one. And then it would have had a better fit. Because I was doing the deeper heel, I wasn't sure exactly how much I would need to leave for that. But yes, I should definitely have done that slightly differently. I have a lot more of Gazelle Hot Socks yarn because they're stripy and fun and quite cheap. At least here in Poland. I got a whole bunch of them, so I have heaps, and I will probably make more of these. I'll wear them, see what else I want to tweak, and then I will probably make more of these because they're great summer socks. I do need a new pair of sneakers so I can wear socks, because at the moment I just wear sandals all the time. What else about them? Yeah, I think that's it. I just needed to put the heel a little bit higher, have a slightly longer foot, and then I think it will fit great. I have leftovers, so I still have to wind off things for my scrappy blankets, and I think I will see if I can make myself an advent out of leftovers too, because I have them. I love in America that there are people who dye 24 colour advents for socks. And so you just knit through the skein and you have how much you knit that day, and then you put them down and the next day you knit that. I'm not paying for shipping from America to where I live in Poland, and I'm not paying the extra tax that comes with. I did do an order from America for fabric recently, for fabric that I couldn't get here, but I'm not doing it for a skein of sock yarn. So I thought I will do my own little advent sock with this, and if I do it soon rather than later, then I will have all of that put aside and I won't remember what they are, maybe. Alright, the next thing that I finished, and I will put it on, but my goodness, it is warm today, is I finished my DRK Everyday Cowl by Drea Renee Knits. Andrea of Drea Renee Knits. Now this is, her everyday DRK Everyday Cowl. You can see the shape there. It has some slip stitches on the front, and I did this using Merino Fleck Heirloom 8-ply in shade 6588 and handspun. So the multicolored yarn in there is handspun. And I had 200 grams of the handspun, and I used not much, 123 grams total. So I have heaps and heaps of that handspun left, and I am not quite sure what to do with it. But I will put this on. I love that this is like a handkerchief cowl, and that it has enough height that it will sit up and actually keep my neck warm. Like I said, not the best day to be putting this on, but that will give you an idea of the cowl. I love it. I love the design. It did take me a minute to get my head around the pattern, not because the pattern's difficult, but almost because the pattern is so simple and yet has such a long repeat that it just kind of took me a minute to figure that out. Andrea's patterns are brilliant. She has technical support as well. If you have a question, you can contact her or contact someone who works for her who answer the technical questions. But I never have a problem with her patterns. It's just, it wasn't one that I could immediately pick up and go, I know exactly what I'm doing on every row and this is fine. And because of the shape, the way before it's seamed, the finished shape is like a rectangle with a triangle on top. And maybe like a house shape. But because of the shape and because of where you start and how you're increasing and decreasing and all those things, it just wasn't straight away, I know exactly what I'm doing. Which is totally fun. Not every pattern has to be, and I did definitely enjoy it. And as is usual, I put it aside for a month or two, and when I came back to pick it up, looking at the pattern again and remembering it again, everything came back and it was super duper simple. So yes, very happy with this. It is warm. It is like a little bit itchy in the wool. This one is not the softest wool, but I have no problem with that. It is 100% merino. It is made in Australia, and I believe it is not superwash, but I'm not certain on that. It doesn't say superwash, and it does say hand wash in wool detergent, do not rub. So I'm going to say not superwash, and then the hand spun is merino. So yeah, it's 100% merino apparently. It's just not the softest, which is totally fine. In winter I will wear it, and I will wear it gladly and happily, and it is very squishy and delightful. I'm not sure what else to say about this. I did show it last week. I think when I washed it to block it, it lost a tiny bit of colour, which would have been this one, but it was so, like, I couldn't tell if the water was actually coloured or if it was just that there was water. Like, it just wasn't perfectly clear, but it wasn't noticeably red or anything like that. So take from it what you will. It is delightful. I love it. This one, oh, I didn't tell you, the stripy socks, excuse me, I started them on the 23rd of May and I finished them on the 18th of June, and they were 42 grams. This one I started on the 31st of December and finished on the 13th of June, and it was 123 grams. And that reminds me that this is indeed a 12 cast-ons project. So 12 cast-ons, if you're new here and haven't heard about it, it is a knit-along that is run by Ange of Jana Yarns, who will also be linked below. And between the 24th of December, and for me I finished on the 7th of January, I cast on 12 new projects as part of this make-along, and then you just have to cast them on before the end of January, and then you make them, knit them, crochet them, whatever it is, until the end of the year, when we do it all again. And I'm so excited to do it all again. But yes, this is one of the ones. I started it, like I said, on the 31st of December. That means it was project number 6. I did take off the marker when I blocked it, so I don't have the marker on saying it's number 6 anymore. And with that finished, I now have 5, 6, 7, 8. I've finished 4 out of 8 of my 12 cast-ons. Sorry, 4 out of 12. I have 8 left of my 12 cast-ons. It's kind of cool. All right, so that one's done. The next one I have to show you is, I love this one. This is the Bean and Olive, also by Andrea Mary. Now, I did adjust this pattern only to add short rows at the back. I think it was Jana of Finished Knitting Stories made this for her daughter, and she said that she added short rows. And so when I picked up the pattern, I knew that it didn't have short rows, and I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But then I was like, no, my daughter is a little picky about her clothes, and if it doesn't have short rows, then she's less likely to wear it. So I did add the short rows between the small hearts and the zigzag. I could have added them above the small hearts, but honestly, I think I just forgot about it, and I don't mind. On the front, this is what it looks like in the pattern with no gap in between because it doesn't have short rows. I love, love, love this. So this is the yarn I used. It is bought from by Ferno, which is a Polish, I'm missing the tag, so I'll pull this one out. It is a Polish shop, and the yarn is Supino Surprise. It's 100% merino, 100 grams, 200 meters, color 11, limited. I bought 4 skeins because I wasn't sure how much I would need for a jumper. I will say my daughter is just turned 4, and this is a size, I think it's 6 to 8. It's the second largest size in the pattern. I haven't checked gauge, but my daughter is quite large for her age, and so quite tall. So I just went up, and I haven't checked how well it fits since I finished it and blocked it, but I did check while I was knitting the sleeves to check the length, and I may have done the sleeves half an inch shorter than it said for the size that I made, but not much. Yeah, so Supino Surprise, I bought 4 skeins, I used 3, so I have this much and an entire skein left over, which I have ideas for. I have ideas for everything, I tell you what, it's crazy. And for the white, I used Bendigo Woolen Mills Luxury 8-ply in the colourway Frost, which is shade 312. And if you're interested, Bendigo Woolen Mills, I believe, is having a sale right now, 15% off maybe. I saw it in my email this morning. I will link them below, but if you're interested, go have a look. I don't know if it's just for people who are subscribers or not, but yeah. I will just say, as I think I say every time, Bendigo Woolen Mills does lean thicker than the weight that they say. So this says 8-ply. I would say this is a 10-ply worsted. When I have their 4-ply, I would usually use that for a sport, not a true fingering. Delightful, soft, squishy. Just if you're worried about gauge, think about that. I think they have 3-ply yarn in some of their bases, and they definitely have 2-ply. So go have a look if you're interested. For this one, yes, there's definitely the white is thicker, but I don't mind, and obviously for colour work that just helps it pop a little bit more. When I was trying to find a colour to use, I was hesitant to use the white. I thought it would be too bright, too contrasty for what I wanted, and I love it. I think it has turned out beautifully. My daughter is going to love it. And yes, it is way too hot to wear this right now, but we will have cooler evenings. Summer will not be here forever. Winter is not far off, so within 2 months she'll be wearing jumpers again. Easy. And that one, like I said, I only used 2 and a bit skeins. Total was 292 grams. So if I wasn't using Bendigo Woolen Mills, I could still have done it in 3 skeins. Which I have considered actually doing this, just taking out the colour work and doing it as a basic sweater pattern, round yoke sweater pattern for a kid. And I may do that in the future. All right, the last thing I have to show you that I have finished, I did show you last week, and I did manage to get it blocked, and it was so hot the other day that I blocked it, lay it out. I think I blocked it overnight, soaked it overnight, lay it out in the morning, and it was dry by bedtime. In fact, probably not even straight away in the morning. I put it on my balcony out here, which gets full sun, and it did not take long to dry completely. Even though I had it folded over because it was so big, it still did not take long to dry. And before I show you this, yes, there was bleeding. So let me show you this. Again, it's just big. Yeah, it's big. So this is the Bits and Bobs blanket by Kay Jones. It is a paid for pattern on Ravelry. It is a very simple stitch. Very, very glad I got the pattern. And the pattern does finish, I think, with an I-cord edging. I just left, like, that's what the edging looks like just from the pattern. And then my cast on edge is a little bit tight because I didn't cast on over 2 needles like I usually do. And so I made sure my other side, my cast off, was looser. But I didn't do anything special. I just did a cast off in pattern. All right. This colour bled. I think it's kind of funny that it was the last colour that I used that bled. And it bled big time. I have used like this blue, this green, the orange. I have this yarn throughout the whole thing in different colours, and it was just this bright green that bled. And you can see, like, yeah. Oh, it looks like there was some pink bleeding at least. You can see, like, that bled pretty bad because this is more what the blue is meant to be, and it's just all through here is the yellow. There's some pink. This one is a different yarn dye, and it looks like some of the yellow's bled in here as well. Like down the other end. Yeah, like I just have pops of that green throughout the entire blanket now. Now, before people get worried or try and fix it, I don't mind. This is a scrappy blanket. It is not all superwash. There is many not superwash in here. There's acrylic, there's nylon, there's all sorts of things. There's alpaca, there's wool. There's a crepe yarn. I don't know what crepe yarn is made out of, but it's crepe yarn. It is just everything is in this blanket. And I knew that that bleeding was a very real possibility. I still used hot water like I normally do. And when I put it in, I leave it until it's cold because I don't want to agitate it and cause felting trying to get the project out of the hot water. So I knew when I chose to block it like I normally do in hot water, bleeding was a possibility. I was a little bit amazed at how much this one bled and over, like how much. I don't even know if you can see it as clear on the camera. In person, it's quite obvious. But, oh, I missed an end. I don't mind. It is for a squishy blanket for home. It is so soft, so warm. Yeah, I'm going to keep using it. And it means, and I know this sounds a bit ridiculous when I'm holding something that I started, was it 3 years ago? Yeah, when I started something 3 years ago and have worked on for 3 years, that I don't mind that it's ruined because then I can not be precious about it. But actually kind of true. Like I have kids, they are going to want to use this blanket. They won't care that there's bleeding. And I'm going to be less precious about it because of the bleeding. Anyway, so I'm excited to use it. It's way too hot right now. I'm going to get this off my lap. But I want to show you it is finished. It is blocked aside from that end that I just saw. I've trimmed all the ends. For this one, I did a clasped weft join, which you, when you're knitting towards the end of your one, you just fold the end back over and you hold the end while you knit a stitch or two, and you'll end up with a little loop. Through that loop you put the next yarn and then you knit, and so you finish off the loop that you created by folding it over and holding the end, and then you knit the next part of the new yarn held double until that end runs out. So you end up with kind of 8 stitches knit holding the yarn double, but it just weaves in the ends, and because it's hooked like this, yeah, the tension is kind of dispersed. It's fine. I did that. I didn't trim any of the ends until after I'd blocked it, and so far I can't see. I can find ones that I didn't trim, but I can't see any that have popped out that I've trimmed from picking it up and throwing it around. I think I will see if I can find a tutorial for the clasp weft join and put it down below. I love it for scrappy projects like this because it really doesn't matter, but it still gives you a definite colour change. Like you don't have marling between the colour changes. And for this, it is just scraps held double with, originally I was using 100% wool, and then I changed to Fable sock because it was a more affordable option. So that is my bits and bobs. You will not see it again unless I'm using it on a cold winter's day to stay warm. All right, I do have my iced coffee again today, which I've forgotten to drink any of. Iced coffee. All right, well that is all of my finishes. Now let's get into whips. All right, I feel like as I'm finishing things in a month, I get to a point where I'm like, what am I actually working on now? Because I'm choosing a couple of things a month to focus on. Oh, that makes some noise. And as I finish them, I'm kind of going, well, the thing that I've been reaching for consistently is done. Now what am I going to do? So I did do a bit of a rearrange. Kind of cleaned out my craft room, not much, to try and figure out exactly what I'm working on and to get the projects that I'm not actively working on a place to sit when I'm not working on them. So I've done that, and it means that where I live, work, do stuff downstairs, I'm only reaching for the things that I'm actually using. So this one has made the cut for another month, because after I finished this one, the Bean and Olive by Andrew Mowry, this one was really great. Vanilla knitting for the body. The sleeves are pretty easy, knocked them out in a day or two. But then I had no vanilla knitting, because the sock that I'm currently doing is not vanilla. It's easy, but not vanilla. And so I wanted something that was very simple, repetitive, that I could work on when chatting, when in Polish, whatever. And surprisingly, it's another jumper. I am so close to finishing this ball of yarn, and I want to do that for a sense of completion. So I'm not sure when I will do that, but it won't be too long, I would say, until that's finished. I do have another Polish class on Friday, so could be that it waits until then, but we'll see. This one is the Kookaburra by Jana, who is a Polish designer who lives in Australia, and I am knitting it in Polish. Like, I've printed off the instructions in Polish. This was another 12 cast on. It was day 8. I've got my little, these are the markers that I use to tell me which day the project is from. So this is day 8 of my 12 cast ons, and the prompt that I picked out for that pattern was a pattern in Polish. So I went through all of my Polish pattern books, which I have quite a few, even though I've never used them yet. But I had bought a coupon for one of Marjana's patterns. And I was looking at the Priscilla, which is a beautiful, beautiful detailed ornate cardigan that I would love. But then I saw one of her patterns, the Kookaburra, which her husband was modeling, I guess. And I was like, my husband would look great. That is this type of jumper, and I've been wanting to make him a jumper. I had yarn for a jumper. I just hadn't found the right pattern. So I used my coupon to buy the Kookaburra instead of Priscilla and cast it on. I am using Four Seasons Montana. I got this from Spotlight Australia on a super sale, like a clearance, I think. It's 90% wool, 7% acrylic, 3% viscose. And I don't know whether the acrylic is purely in the neps or if the acrylic is blended with the wool for the actual yarn and the viscose is the neps. But it is a tweedy yarn, and I'm really hoping that I have enough to make myself something with it afterwards, but we will see. This have ends everywhere. This is Kookaburra. You can see that beautiful patterning. There is charted, I don't know if there are written instructions, but there are charted instructions for the pattern. And then down the bottom, it just turns into seed stitch. So I'm doing the seed stitch part at the moment. This is marking where it was last time when I showed you. So I've done a good, 4 inches? Almost 4.5 maybe inches since I last showed this on the podcast. And that has just been either when I'm too tired to work on something more complicated, I'm moving the marker up, or Polish lessons. I do knit during Polish lessons. It helps me focus better. People think it's crazy. Like, I can read Polish while I'm knitting. Most of my Polish lessons at the moment are chatting with my Polish teacher and, yeah, knitting while I chat. It helps, I think, take some of the pressure away when I put my knitting down and then I'm trying to think of words. I'm like, I can't figure it out. Pick my knitting up and it's just like, you know what? I can't think of that word. I'll tell you a different word. It works lovely for me. All right, the other thing about Marjana's patterns, which I will mention now, is she has them all, each size is a different PDF, at least on Ravelry. I presume on her website as well. So when I bought the pattern, I got access to the pattern in every size, but when I knew what size I wanted to make for my husband, I downloaded that PDF, printed that PDF off, and then the entire pattern is just instructions for that size. I don't have any brackets, which, to be honest, for my first pattern doing it in Polish, so grateful for that little bit of ease. It is beautifully designed. I was thinking I need to block it to see if it's going to grow or anything like that. I'm not actually sure I'm going to. We'll see. But I'm loving the pattern, and I have done it. Yeah, I've worked on it on and off for the last few months. What else is there to say about it? I think I've got maybe another 9 inches, 8 inches of the body to go, and then the sleeves. And I think the sleeves are all stocking stitch as well. I could be wrong. And so I would love to get this done for Christmas. Although, as I said to my Polish teacher the other day, you know what? My husband just needs jumpers, so I may not make him wait until Christmas. I may just give it to him because it's cold and he needs a jumper. I started this on the 3rd of January. Like I said, it was a 12 cast on, so it was in that time. And yes, I am trying to work on a 12 cast on project every month. And sometimes that'll be 2, like I just finished the DRK Everyday Cow, and I'm working on this too. I was going to put this one away, but like I said, I needed easy knitting, and I didn't have any other easy knitting that I could pick up and put down whenever. So I think this is going to stay out in that slot unless there is something else that takes over. Yep. All right, the next thing I have to show you is, I'm pretty sure I showed you last week, scrappy socks. These are in a bag that I bought in Greece when I was there a couple of years ago. And I have one sock finished. Let me grab one of these blockers and show you properly. This one I finished yesterday. I think I finished yesterday, and then I cast on the new one last night. I love it. This little mushroom my sister made me. Where is it? So cute. Yeah, so I put markers every 10 rows so that I can make sure that both socks are the same length. The mushroom is telling me where I put the heel, the beginning of the heel, and then this one, which today is a Central Perk Friends coffee mug, is telling me where I started the toe. These are just scrappy socks, fingering held double. I am holding one yarn consistently throughout toe, heel, cuff, but honestly I'm not even sure if it makes a difference. I think next time, if I want to make a distinction, I'd probably just hold a yarn double with itself for those 3 sections. But yeah, otherwise I just went through, pulled out all of my kind of yellow, green, blue, brown, orange scraps, basically just not pink and purple, and put them into here. I sometimes am using up the scraps, sometimes I'm just getting sick of the colour and changing it. When I got to using white and yellow at the same point here, I was like, oh, that stands out. So I changed one of them pretty quick. But overall, I actually don't mind it. Just if it was like a huge chunk of yellow and white, maybe not. I love scrappy. I love letting it do its thing. And for colour changing here, I thought about leaving the yarns, but I did end up sewing in the first and last and then trimming the rest. When I'm changing yarns for this one, I'm not doing the clasp weft join. I'm just simply adding in another yarn and then cutting the previous one. So I'm knitting 5 stitches where I'm holding 3 yarns together and then going back to 2, but with the new yarn. I have absolutely no problems with that in terms of the integrity of the sock, because because one yarn is being held when the other yarn is changing, you're not going to have a hole there. It's not going to pull apart. You may have one stitch that kind of pops out a little maybe. I don't know if that is an example, but there's like a little stitch here that's kind of popping out slightly. That's a possibility. Or over here. That one there. But these are going to be work socks. They're for warmth, they're for work. They will probably get covered in paint. my dad watches this, so, you know, I'm not telling anyone, but this is for my dad. He asked for them. He knows they're coming. But yeah, he's an artist. He will be wearing these out in the bush, painting trees. If you want to check him out, actually, he's got a YouTube channel, McKane. Brilliant, phenomenal art, painted in Australia, on location, in the middle of the bush. He paints trees. It's beautiful. But yeah, he has enlisted me and my sister to make him things to keep him warm when he's painting in the very cold Tasmanian air. Yeah, so he's requested more warm socks, and this is them. So yeah, in terms of the join, I'm just holding them together, and I do that sometimes for jumpers if I'm changing yarns of the same colour. This one, it does mean that there's a part where you have 3 colours rather than 2, but because the whole thing is mild and changing and crazy, I can't even tell. Yeah, so that is sock number 1. I did start the second sock last night, and I got through the cuff and just a couple of rows of the leg. For this, I am doing, obviously, magic loop, 3.25mm needles, and it is vanilla, DK vanilla socks by Kay the Crazy Sock Lady, which is a free pattern if you're wanting to do DK socks. I'm doing size medium, which is 48 stitches, and just following the pattern. Oh, maybe not. I only did 10 rows for the cuff because, I mean, I know you need cuffs, but I just can't be bothered to do long cuffs ever. So this is the colour that I'm holding consistently throughout the heel, toe and cuff. And then everything else is just in here. Nice and messy. I believe this is the one that I'm using at the moment. So there'll be a bit of striping. But yeah, just scraps. And after this, I think, yeah, I won't use all these scraps, but it will be quite a bit. These socks are DK, and I think I did 50 rounds for the leg. Yeah. For my dad, I normally do 40 rounds for a fingering weight sock, but because these are for the bush and for cold weather, he specifically asked for a longer leg. So I've done 50 rounds of DK, which is significantly longer than 40 rounds of fingering. And so, yeah, these will be quite hefty. Like, I would say they'll probably end up almost 100 grams for the pair, which, when you think about my shorties, which were less, like just over 42 grams, significantly different. But yeah, scrappy. And I started them on the 8th of June. I was picking scrappy for a different project, got distracted by them. The next one I have to show you is not on that side, this side. So this is the project that I was picking yarn for when I decided to cast them on at the same time. I actually spoke to my parents and asked them if there's something that they're hoping for Christmas. And they gave me some great ideas. So that was just as I was about to pick out yarn for this, and I got them as well. This is my newest cast on. I think so. I've cast on one that I haven't actually written in my knitting book. Whoops. Second newest cast on. This is the Sundial Tee by Wool and Pine Designs. This is the pattern in black and white, obviously. It is a mosaic knit, and I'm enjoying it. I haven't done a huge amount of mosaic. It's not something that I'm like, oh yes, I know what I'm doing. Like, mosaic's not tricky. You're only using one colour at a time, and then you're slipping stitches to create the pattern. But I think for this one, because it's tailored and seamless, like you do provisional cast on, you knit one shoulder, the other shoulder, knit what I think is the back, and then you come back and pick up those provisionals and knit the front, and then you do the collar. And then you just seam down the side. So you don't have to choose where your armhole is until the end of it, when you can try it on and be like, yes, I want it to be seamed up to here or only down to here or whatever. And then you knit the cuff on the sleeves after that. I think I'm getting that right. But because of the provisional cast on this side, I had the yarns from the provisional cast on, I had the ends from all the different things here. I actually cast it on while I was chatting to people, which was probably a terrible idea. So I ended up doing one side, one row less than I needed, and then the provisional cast on I used, I always need to do a knit plain row before I actually start whatever the pattern says, because you're not knitting with the yarn during the provisional cast on. Like, you're casting on with a separate yarn completely, then you knit one row, and that's where most patterns start. And so I hadn't done that, and luckily the two sides are slightly different, so when I realized I hadn't done that, I was like, well, that can be side one or side two, and I'll now go back and knit side one. Anyway, the pattern is fine. It was just that I was doing provisional cast on in a different, like, I didn't use their tutorials or links or anything for that, while talking to people, made a couple of mistakes. So I had a bit of like ripping back at the beginning. I had so many threads everywhere. And I was using needles I hate. I've spoken to you about this before. If you're new here, welcome. I don't like using needles that I don't like. It's very simple. Xiaogu are my favorite. I also use the Knit Pro mindfulness needles. I like the needles of that. I don't like the join for the interchangeables as much, or even the join for the fixed as much, but I don't mind them, and they are more affordable than Xiaogu. But I wanted to cast on this project. I didn't have 4mm needles that I knew of. I have since found a pair that wasn't being used because I hadn't cleaned out a bag. I believe this one was on 4mm needles, so I had the bag sitting there with the needles in it, and I could have just used them, and I didn't know. Anyway, but this one was on 4mm needles, so I ended up knitting the sleeves of this really quick so that I could steal the needles from this project and put them into this project, the Sundial Tee. And once I did that, I found it so much more enjoyable. I was picking it up to knit on it. Like, mosaic became easier because mosaic, you're slipping a lot of stitches. I mean, even knitting. I was using Knit Pro Zings, and I just find the tips flat. And so when I'm knitting, I find it like harder to pick up or harder to slip because I'm kind of like forcing the needle through. Anyway, I changed the needles. It is a much more delightful project to knit on now. I'm not in the middle of a row, look at that. And this is what I've got. Now, very, very, very beginning, I've finished the blue clearly. I'm still in the middle of the second pattern repeat, which is yellow and orange. So they're 18 row pattern repeat, and you're knitting each colour, like you're knitting a row, how do I put it? It's knit flat, so you're using one colour to knit right side, wrong side, and then you change colour, right side, wrong side, change colour, right side, wrong side. So for every 18 rows, you're knitting 4 rows in one colour, 5 rows in the other colour, and then you change one colour. So the orange has continued down and the blue changed to yellow. And then the next one will be yellow and whatever colour I choose next. It's a really, really fun pattern in that way. When you block it, I think you'll end up with more distinction of pattern. It did, when I started it, I realised that the orange and blue don't have contrast. The colours are different, but the shade, if you take it black and white, you cannot tell that there are two yarns here. And I knew that, and I decided to go with it anyway. And then as I was knitting it, I was like, what have I done? And then I looked at the original pattern. There are two in the pattern, and this one is high contrast. Every single one you have high contrast. The other one is low contrast, and so some of them you have contrast in terms of shade and some of them you don't. And when you look at it in black and white, sometimes it looks like a solid strip and sometimes you see the pattern. And that was the one that I liked, and that was the one that I chose to replicate. And then I started and I was like, what have I done? But when I started the yellow, now that I'm this far through, I'm very, very happy. This is just going to be such a fun tee to wear. I'm loving the colours. I'm using this one I dyed myself, which I have earmarked for a shawl. And I have another skein of this and I'm hoping to still use it for the shawl and that I won't run out. Actually, you know what, I'll do that. I'll use it. If I get to the end of the shawl and I haven't quite finished the pattern, I'll just do a couple of rows in a contrast colour. Fine. But I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I have a whole bunch of tonals and semi-tonals that are from Advents that I've done swaps with friends. So I picked out all of the, again, basically just not pink and purple, the greens, yellows, blues. Actually, there is a purple. Basically, it was all the tonals. The pinks that were in the Advent were very kind of speckly, multicoloured. Yeah, I'm going to have to sort that out. Where these ones were much more tonal. So I've just picked all the tonal ones out because with the mosaic, unless I was doing high contrast, like black with a speckled or something, I think would be fine. But I didn't want to do something that had multiple colours with something that was very similar like that. You still have contrast. Anyway, all that to say, I've picked out the semi-tonals, the tonal semi-solids, and that's what I'm using for this. And I think it'll end up being my colours. I'm very excited. What else? I'm using all of the recommended needle sizes, everything from the pattern. I have not gauge swatched. If you've been here a while, you know I just don't do that as a general thing. And yeah, I'm excited. I was working on this while I was watching, I think it was Ange from Jana's Scrapinacci shawl review. She's just finished making it and has a little making vlog. And I was working on this and I was so enjoying it, and then I kind of hit a wall and I was like, I cannot, like I'm spending way too much time looking at the pattern, figuring out exactly what colour and where in the pattern. I was like, nah, I'm too tired now, time to put it away. And I did, and I haven't picked it up again since then, but I'm very excited and I may do that this afternoon. I'm planning, or soon, when I finish this maybe, I'm planning to go to a cafe and work for a couple of hours, read, knit, have a coffee, rest. I'm having a coffee here. That could be a problem. Have a drink, rest before I go pick up the kids. So I might take that one. I'm very, very excited. The next, I started that on the 9th of June. So the day after the Scrappy Socks. And you can see for something that I've been working on for that long, I haven't actually done much, but I did finish the bean and olive so that I could use the needles. And so most of the progress on that is actually from the last few days. What next? Oh, all right. Now we're going to take a detour through Scrappy Blanket World. Anyone else here for Scrappy Blanket World? I love Scrappy Blanket World. This one is in a bag that I made myself. I make most of my bags myself. I have a tutorial which will be linked below for how I make my bags. Gives you instructions for size, cutting, everything, and also in it tells you how to modify the pattern if you want a different size. This is bigger than the one in the pattern, and this one, the tulip fabric, my sister bought with me in mind because I love tulips. And then when I was at her house, I did a mass project bag making for her and myself, and so I paired it with some gingham that she had. What's in the side? Oh, yeah, more gingham. I absolutely love it. Thank you, Mel. So, yes, I made a whole bunch for her, a whole bunch for me. And, yes, she had fabric that she'd put aside for bags and not made, so I just made them up too. All right. So, this one is the Cozy Memories blanket, patterned by Kemperay. It is a free pattern on Ravelry if you're interested, and I am doing what so many people have done in that I am saving 5 grams from everything that I make that is kind of fingering weight. I don't think it's just sock yarn. I think it's, yep, no, it's all fingering yarn. And I'm just putting it into here. I don't know if I've got my silk ones. I think it's wool. Anything that's like wool or wool nylon. I'm putting it into here, and then I'm putting a square in my bag, and then my leftovers I will end up putting into a scrappy ball or something. But I had so many yarns waiting to be put into this. I had a whole bag of yarns that were leftovers that I hadn't wound off. So the other day I was really tired. I didn't have any brain power. I just sat and I wound yarn. And then I added a couple of squares to this. And when I did that, I realized I haven't shown you this for ages. Now, this is part of the difficulty of scrappy blankets because the progress is slow. Like bits and bobs, that was 3 years. And if I'm showing you that every podcast for 3 years, you're just going to get bored of it. But I don't have like a regular on the first Sunday I'll show you scrappy blankets because I don't always work on them every month even. But I pulled this out and I was like, oof, that's actually got quite a bit of things added. So I'm going to show you and you can be excited with me. Now these are tiny, tiny squares. Tiny, tiny squares. I think they probably finish 2 3/4. They're bigger than 2.5. 2 3/4 inches, I would say, square. And you can see on the outside, almost every one on the outside has a marker. This one, the marker got poked through. So yeah, I've done almost a complete round. Those ones aren't new, but here, markers, here, markers, here, just so many markers. I am using fingering weight for this. I'm casting on 20 stitches on each side, so 40 stitches total. I can't remember if that is in the pattern or not. But other than that, I'm doing it according to pattern. I am mostly doing the weave and steven on the back to wind in my ends. That doesn't always work. Sometimes I forget, and so I'm going to have to go and wind, put those ones in. And sometimes I've done it and just not snipped the end off. So there are ends on the back. Sorry if that stresses you out. And I'm not going to go into every yarn. Like this one, my son dyed. This one, I actually used that for a scrappy blanket, and I've picked that out for Christmas socks for someone. This one, my daughter dyed. No, my son dyed that one too. This is Tiger King. If you haven't seen the show, it's amazing. But that one's dyed by Maximu Yarns, and again used it for a scrappy blanket and have yet to make socks out of it. This one I think is a possum mix that I got from my sister that I used in some projects. This one I want to say is like Manos del Uruguay. Again, sorry for pronunciation, but yes, my sister gave me that one too. This one I think maybe a mini set from my sister. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to go into all of them. This one though was my butterfly shawl. This was where the colours were up to for my butterfly papillion shawl. So that's what I've got from here. This is a pair of socks I did recently. Anyway, I have a lot of things, and I'm only adding to this one yarns that I've used in another project. So it is a memory blanket, and I'm only using each one once. And as I say that, I realized that I found some that I've wound off that I couldn't see. I wasn't sure if I'd put them in here or not, so I need to check that. But yes, so that is that. I will leave this out and take off all the markers so that next time I know where I'm up to and what you've seen and what you haven't seen. That one I started, now we're going to go back. I actually started that one maybe 5 years ago, knit 1 or 2 squares, and then was like, I'm not enjoying this and I'm not going to do this, and then pulled it all out again. And then 2 years later, year and a half later, I was like, you know what, actually, I think knitting had moved from I knit because I like it but I really want the finished project to I knit because I like knitting and I don't mind if it takes forever. And so I started it again on the 20th of Feb 2023. So that was 2.5 years ago. And you can see I haven't done much. I did try, I don't know how well you'll see this, I did try to have squares. So because the Cozy Memories, you end up with these lines, I was like, how cool would it be if I had a square within a bigger square for those lines? And I played around with different ways to join it. I think I could do it now, but at the time I was just trying different ways to join it at the end of the row. The way that she does it is you do a square and then you pick up stitches and then you cast on stitches and do it. So you're always knitting to the point where there's nothing there. And so knitting to the point where I wanted to join at the point with two more things that were already there, it was a bit tricky. So I ended up doing it for the middle and then the next square out, and that's just going to be the center of the blanket. The rest of them I'm just having it go out. I'm a little bit sad about that because I do have the skills now that I could turn it into like a blanket of squares, but there's enough that I would have to undo and redo that I'm not going to, unless I guess I could turn it into like squares and rectangles. The more that I add, the more tricky I make it, the less I'm going to do it. But if it's not tricky, if I figure it out and can make it happen, then I'm going to be so much more excited to add things because I'm adding to a bigger design. How far am I through it? I could. Guys, am I crazy? I'm crazy, aren't I? All right. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to take off the stitch markers that are there and I'm going to have a think about that because I would love it if at the end it was squares or rectangles, some kind of like geometric design rather than just lines coming out from the center. My goodness, guys, I'm insane. But hey, you don't knit a blanket that has like 500 squares in it from scraps if you're not insane. So, hey. Yeah. All right. The next one that I have is another scrappy project, another scrappy blanket. And this one I have showed you before. I started it, have I even put it here? Yes, I started on the 2nd of March. Oh, kind of. I started on the 2nd of March 2024. Again, I ripped that out and started it again because I wasn't happy with how I was joining the yarns. I was doing a Russian join, which is kind of like the clasp weft joint, except that you're actually sewing the end into the yarn itself. So rather than just holding it double and knitting, you're threading the yarn through itself and then knitting it together. So it's very similar, but you end up with less puffy ends and an even stronger join. But because I was doing that, it was changing at different points, and so sometimes I had the pearl bumps in 2 different colours on the front of the blanket. So to give an example, here, when you change yarns, you end up with the different coloured pearl bumps, and on the right side, you just have a clean line. And so I decided I did want the clean line, not the different coloured pearl bumps. So I ripped it out and started again, and don't know when I started again. I want to say maybe April. It wasn't that long ago. So I think when I showed you last, I had finished the first row and I'm now well into the second. So this is where I'm up to. This is a pattern, another pattern by Kay Jones, and I cast on 20 stitches for my one. She has a bit of a recipe, so you can figure out what weight yarn, what needles, how big, and then this is the end of the first one. So I have all my ends hanging out, even at the end on the back where I have woven them in using Weave and Steven. I haven't chopped them. And I'm not sure whether I'll wait and chop them when I finish the whole thing and it's blocked, because again, that helps stop it from pulling out, or whether I'll chop it beforehand because I get sick of having long ends everywhere. But yeah, so I'm making progress. This is sitting down by the TV, and if I don't have anything else easy to pick up, if I'm tired, this is what I choose. Again, I don't have great examples, but when I wind off 5 grams for the Cozy Memories, I wind off 5 grams for this. So they will end up being very much the same colours. But yeah, that's just what I got. Yeah, I am loving it. Not much else to say about this. It's gonna be a long-term project. But yes, I do enjoy working on it, changing colours, and it's still small, so still workable. I also have, I just realised there's a whole yarn here that's a new cast on that I haven't shown you yet. But I will finish my scrappy blankets first. The next one that I have is my granny square, which I think I showed you last week, maybe the week before. This one, where is my hook? Seriously, I'm sure the hook was here. There we go, I found it. This one I have moved from the basket it was in into my scrappy basket. This one was housing my bits and bobs, and this one sits in my bedroom next to my relaxy chair, so that if I just want a few minutes of quiet, I go in there, pick up the project, work on it. It's a low pressure, do something with your hands kind of place. I'm doing this with a 3mm hook. This is a Tula Patino one. I like them, and the yarn I'm using is Hobby Winter Glow, which is 51% wool, 49% acrylic, and this is where I'm up to. I think that's starting to undo because I'm pulling it, but where are we? Just going to try and stop my blanket from unraveling. So this is where I was up to last time I showed it. So I've just done a few rows, but yeah, I have been working on it, and I'm going to move that. I've done what? 1, 2, 3 rows, 3 or 4 rows. So I'm going to move that for next time, and yeah, just making progress on my scrappy blankets. The next one that I have is a new one, and this one is a bit funny. So you may or may not be aware that Opal came out with a line of yarn called Vincent, which is based on Van Gogh's works. So I don't know how many they came out with. This is colorway 5435, and it's based on Starry Night. And so yeah, they come with the painting. They've done it for a whole range of different artists, that they use the colours from the painting and the proportions of the colours to dye an opal style yarn. It is 100 grams, 425 meters, 75% wool, 25% polyamide. I saw these years ago and I didn't buy them. And when I finally was like, maybe I will, maybe I won't, I think they'd sold out everywhere. And then recently I was looking on a website that I don't go on very often, and they had this advertised, and I was like, they have some still, this is amazing. My brother-in-law loves Van Gogh, and so I messaged my sister and I said, what, like, does he like woolen socks? Is it worth making them? And if I do, what's his favourite paintings? And so she replied, Starry Night, and I think the sunflowers were his favourites. And I was like, great. And I went to the website to buy the yarn, and they were out of stock. And then I realised that this website has a whole bunch of yarn advertised. It even comes up when you go into the thing. It's like, hey, look, these are the yarns that we have from this. But a lot of them are out of stock. And I found that quite frustrating. They have a lot of yarn in stock, but I'm like, if it's out of stock, why are you putting that on your like front page being like, hey, look at these things we have, if it's all out of stock? Like, it wasn't even like one of them was in stock. stock. They were all out of stock. I'm pretty sure they were all out of stock. Anyway, so then I messaged my sister. I'm like, I'm sorry, they're all out of stock. I was really excited. And I was like, maybe they're still somewhere. So I looked it up, and I think there were a couple of places in America that they were in stock. But again, not paying for shipping from America, not paying extra taxes on already expensive yarn. But then I found some in Ireland, which is still part of the EU, so I don't have to pay any extra taxes. And I mean, shipping from Ireland, sure, but it's still less than from America. And so I went and I bought, did I buy one of every type they had? Almost. Because I knew that there were other people in my life who also like Bango. And so I was like, I'm just going to get them now because I can't get them again. Let's do it. And also, if you're paying for shipping, you may as well ship more than one thing. So I ordered them, they arrived, and I cast on these socks. So this is the yarn. Let me pull out the picture again so you can see there. Look at that. Pretty cool. So I started the socks. And these ones, I think I put on Ravelry saying vanilla socks, but I ended up doing Rhinebeck Reamies, which is another one of Kay's patterns. And I just love the way that the kind of cross stitches reflect the painting. Like it just, yeah, it breaks it up. I don't know, I love it. So these are for my brother-in-law. I am planning to make another pair for him for Christmas. These, I don't know if they'll technically be birthday or Christmas, but they're both at the end of the year. And so yeah, I'm almost up to the heel on the first sock. I haven't started the second. I'm doing a size large for him. And I am doing a knit 2 purl 2 cuff. I don't know what cuff is in the pattern, but I'm doing knit 2 purl 2. Rhinebeck Rubies. I believe Kay's sock patterns, or all of her patterns, are 25% off to the end of June. So if you're interested, go check it out. No code needed, I believe. But yeah. So I started these. They are memorizable. I have no problem memorizing the pattern. I do occasionally do a yarn over where I shouldn't. And I have had to like tink back or fix a couple of times where I've done that. So yeah, definitely not pay no attention stuff. And so I don't know whether I'm going to do this pattern for all of them or if I'll go back to vanilla socks for some of them. I need vanilla knitting, and vanilla socks for such a fun yarn still will work. But for my brother-in-law, I thought Rhinebeck Reamies would be a good way to go. I think that's all of my knitting stuff at the moment. I do have some life stuff that I will chat about quickly, but if you're just here for the knitting, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah. Life. So, summer holidays start tomorrow. Like I said, we don't have an air conditioner. We just get hot when it's hot. I need to finish putting the fly screens on the upstairs. I've done it for the downstairs. I need to finish doing it for the upstairs so that we can open the windows on the cooler evenings and get the airflow going, and particularly for the kids' room because that room gets hot. We do have places downstairs that if we need to, we can sleep on the really hot days, but we all prefer our own beds, so we'll see how we go. Our neighbours have just put up their above ground pool, and so we have access to that. They've said come over anytime. So we may go swimming quite a bit this summer. We'll see. That's the plan. But yeah, it will just get hot in here. So we will spend a lot of time downstairs, probably a fair bit of time outside. Kids love water, so the pool is a great option, and also just some water play in the backyard. My husband finished uni. He has been doing a master's and he handed in his final assignment. So we've been decorating the house for summer, and that means buying plants. We did buy plants. Next year we're hoping to propagate our own, and I'm practicing that now. But we did buy plants and we've put them in window boxes around the house. It's a very common thing to do here, and we're very, very excited. There's windows over there with them in it, but you can't see them in the camera yet. And yeah, like I said, I'm learning to propagate plants. When we bought one of them a while ago, one of the branches fell off, like it just got broken. In fact, it may not have been, we bought it, we potted it, and then a toy got stuck in it, and our son, it's in a hanging basket, our son tried to pull it up to the balcony so that he could get the thing out, but it was too heavy and he dropped it, and then the wires on the hanging basket snapped and the whole basket fell down. So I think at that point a branch broke off the plant. So we made sure everything was fine, hung it back up, like fixed wires, hung it back up, and then I just put that in water inside thinking it's pretty, don't want it to go to waste. When flowers die, we'll throw it out. And it didn't die. And it started growing roots. And I was like, I didn't realize that that was a thing. Like, I know that some plants do that, but I didn't know this plant would do that. And so after it grew roots, I did some Googling and potted it in one of our other pots outside, and it is flourishing. And at that point, we bought all the other plants, the geraniums for outside, and I was looking up geraniums, and you can propagate them too. So as I was, like, I planted them, and then I was trimming them to help them grow properly, and some of the bits that I trimmed, I brought inside to try and propagate them as well. So I'm hoping that I can learn it now, and then we'll be able to keep them alive over winter inside, so we don't have to buy them again next year. We can just keep using the plants that we have and propagating them. That is my plan. Will it work? I don't know, but we're gonna try. I'm learning new things. And yeah, like, we're gonna take the next 2 weeks pretty easy. The kids finish tomorrow, so we're gonna kind of take the first 2 weeks off, have a bit of a break, do extra fun things with the kids, and then we'll get it into our regular summer routine where my husband and I still work and our kids are at home. Yeah, we work from home. We're not leaving them at home alone. They're young, but yeah, we'll have a couple of weeks quieter and then we'll go into everything else. So yeah, I'm excited for the Christmas in July-ish gift along. If you're interested in that, let me know below. If you already have ideas of what you want to make or who you want to make for, let me know. Have you participated in the tea knit along? Have you finished a tea and you haven't told me about it yet? I would love to hear what you've been working on. And if you're not doing any of the knit alongs, what are you doing while you're watching this? Are you doing washing? Are you knitting on something that's just not part of a knit along? That's okay too. Yeah, I'd love to hear what is going on. And remember, if you want to take a photo and send me a photo of what you've been doing, there is a chatter thread on Ravelry just to say hi and what you're working on as well. So you can also put photos over there. I am going to, I think, clean up from this podcast and then maybe just go and straight ahead record the Christmas one, because I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to stop talking about it here. I'm going to go record the next one, which I will post. Let me know, would you rather the 30th of June or the 1st of July for posting that one? Because you can absolutely start whenever, like whips are allowed. But would you rather have the inspirational, this is what I'm planning, the day before or the day it starts? Let me know. Cool. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been delightful as always. And I will see you next time. Bye.